Lindsey Graham would say ISIS exists because of people like Rand Paul, who said, let's not go into Syria. And what do you say to Lindsey?
I would say it's exactly the opposite. ISIS exists and grew stronger because of the hawks in our party who gave arms indiscriminately, and most of those arms were snatched up by ISIS. These hawks also wanted to bomb Assad, which would have made ISIS's job even easier. They created these people. ISIS is all over Libya because these same hawks in my party loved Hillary Clinton's war in Libya. They just wanted more of it. But Libya is a failed state, and it's a disaster. Iraq really is a failed state, or a vassal state now of Iran. So everything that they've talked about in foreign policy, they've been wrong about.
A new wrinkle in the ages-old debate of dove versus hawk, libertarian versus conservative,
right?
Isolationist versus interventionalism.
Attacking members of his own
party. That's right.
party
Senator Rand
already.
Paul slamming his own party, the hawks in his own party anyways, for the rise of ISIS. But it's not over yet. Paul could have another faux filibuster planned this weekend to talk about the NSA surveillance program. And senior political contributor for Forbes.com and co-host of the Daily Wrap, Rick Unger, joining us here today to talk more about this. Good to have you with us, Rick.
Good to be here. Happy Friday, guys.
Oh,
Happy Friday to you as well.
Friday indeed.
You made it.
Now, Politico writing that although Senator Rand Paul believes differently from a crowded GOP field that he's running against for president, it could actually hurt him, if not in the long run, at least in the short term during the primary. An Iowa Republican was even more blunt about the assessment. God help us if someone like him was ever to be president. His foreign policy and national security views are more frightening than any prominent Democrat, save Bernie Sanders. If you're a Republican, that stings a little bit. But what do you think about this? Do you think this is maybe Rand Paul underestimating how much he might offend these so-called hawks in his party?
No, I've got to believe he knows that he will offend the hawks in his party. At the same time, it probably comes down to a calculation he's making with respect to his presidential politics. I suspect what he's assuming is he's either not getting that Republican base that tends to be more conservative in their approach to foreign policy, but hopes to bring in new voters who are more libertarian, who were big fans of his father, and probably are sitting there going, well, that makes sense what he's saying. I mean, it's a fascinating perspective that he has. I don't dismiss it out of hand. At the same time, it's probably going to cause him more electoral trouble than good in my estimation.
I have to agree because, you look at this, and again, going back a long time ago when he first got elected, you have to respect the guy for putting something out there and going against the grain here. But when he's running for president and the way he's trying to execute getting this out there on the main stage, it seems a little tinny because it does appear like he has his presidential aspirations at the front of his priority list.
Yeah, well, can you name any of them that don't?
No, and I know, and it speaks to a bigger strategy that a lot of these guys are trying to roll out this election cycle. They're trying to be very
separate himself,
surgical, and he is an eye surgeon, but they're trying to be so surgical in their approach to these primaries with Jeb Bush and his super PAC, Rand Paul trying to take this counter hawk. When there's some people saying, I'm going to stay out of the Florida primary, I think this is all going to come back to hurt them because, as we've seen time and time again, normally if you win in Iowa, then you go on to New Hampshire, then you go on to South Carolina, that sets yourself up for a big win in the primary. You look back to Rudy Giuliani in 2012, like he tried to put all his chips on Florida, and it just simply didn't work.
It didn't work. And I do have to point something out because I feel like the media has missed this by and large. Senator Ted Cruz, I don't know if you noticed, but over the past few days, I've never seen somebody go so far out of their way to not utter the words federal help. I mean, here his state is inundated with water. The governor certainly, this, by the way, the same governor who a week ago was telling us that he was terrified that the federal government was about to invade his state because we're doing war games. He didn't lose a minute in calling up the president saying, please help us. And of course, the president did, and I think that's great. But Senator Cruz, when he stood in front of a press conference, started talking about statutes and legislation that would make this possible. Anything he could do, then say, I, Ted Cruz, am asking the federal government for assistance. Now, if that's not somebody putting their presidential ambitions in front of the interests of their state, I don't know what is. And yet nobody seems to have noticed it. So they're all doing it. Rand Paul's is a bit odder. I agree with you. But at the same time, he's sure getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, we've been talking about it a lot. And, one of the things we've talked about is his filibuster pack that he put out for sale in a lot of these campaigns and their merch stores. It just, when you're talking about something as important as this issue, it needs to be debated. You can't help but throw up your arms a little bit in frustration. As much as I love a good political campaign, we got to put our priorities first.
Because he is very excited, as you can see, Rick.
Well, we got a big field and a lot to talk about.
We do.
We got plenty to talk about here with Rick Ungar. Rick, we got to run. We're out of time. We got a big interview coming up with Charlie Daniels, and we want to encourage everybody to tune in to the Daily Wrap coming up here later today on Newsmax TV.
Yeah, you're a little excited. What do you think about O'Malley?
No, he needs to get in the race.
Well, he's supposed to announce tomorrow, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to things also picking up a little bit more on the Democratic side. We know Hillary Clinton, her campaign, not going to talk to the media, but maybe she will. The rest of the candidates start doing it.
We'll see. I think she puts herself in a different league. We'll be right back. You're watching Newsmax Now.